Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in BC. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
The BC government has brought out its new budget, highlights, lowlights, no lights. What's going on there?
Yeah, if you're in small business, it's definitely a no-light budget for you. The top-end kind of numbers, it's about a $64 billion a year budget, so bringing in roughly $64 billion, spending roughly $64 billion, a razor-thin surplus, about $227 million, basically funded by 3 new tax grabs. A tax on Netflix and Disney Plus, streaming services like that. A tax on pop, sugary drinks, Coca-Cola, etc. And a tax on people making more than $220,000 a year. This is an extra tax, which means now people who make more than $220,000 a year will be paying a marginal rate of 53% when you add in the provincial government and the federal government take. And that is a bit of a tipping point where when you start taking more than half of the money that people earn in taxes, those people tend to start moving away from your jurisdiction or finding other places to hide that money.
Right, and they have the resources to do that.
Well, exactly. They've got all they can afford the fancy accountants and tax lawyers and all those important things that help them get around these high costs. So you have to be very careful, right? And just, there comes a point of fairness, right, where you go, okay, do we really need to take more than half of someone's income in taxes? Is that really fair to take more than half of what they've earned? You can understand why some people would say no, absolutely not. Typical BC NDP rhetoric and typical their kind of politics. The problem is that I don't think it'll generate the kind of money they think it will long term, simply because people will find ways to get around it.
Also, if you're taxing at that kind of rate, isn't there a thing called the Laffer Curve, where there's an optimum rate around, I think, 22, 23%, and once you go past 44%, you actually start to lose money?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to point out is so these are people who generally are highly mobile. They can afford to move jurisdictions. Many of them travel quite a bit, so they already feel a bit transnational. They have other options, other places to go, and you're taxing them at a rate that starts to feel very unfair. Remember back in the day, the Beatles wrote the song "Taxman," based on this kind of premise that, they were feeling like it was unfair that they were paying more in taxes than they were actually receiving from their paychecks. That is a hard psychological thing to get past when someone can look at a paycheck and see that more of it went to the government for their work than went to them.
Mm-hmm. And what's your incentive to work harder if you make less?
Well, exactly. What's your incentive to come to Canada and invest? What's your incentive if you're, to come and grow a business and grow income streams? You don't really have one or as much of one anymore because so much of it is going to the government. So, it always sounds great in theory, right? It's kind of, I call it CNN politics. It's one of those ideas that gets thrust upon Canada simply because we're close to the United States and we see all this stuff on CNN about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and wanting higher taxes on the rich. But doesn't really match up in the Canadian context, especially in British Columbia, where we already have so few of these. Well, by definition, these are the 1%ers. That means there's very few of them out there.
And the U.S. tax rates that they complain about are so much lower than ours.
Oh, for sure. Like, and you're starting to see it creep into more and more conversations in hockey. I notice it. 5-10 years ago, hardly anyone talked about taxes as one of the reasons to, choose one team over another. But now they do. The agents all do those calculations, and they know that if their player goes to a Florida team, Tampa Bay Lightning, for example, rather than the LA Kings, they're going to pay a lot less in taxes. And furthermore, if they go to the LA Kings instead of the Montreal Canadiens, they're going to pay even less in taxes. So there's all these kind of little ways to that people who are highly mobile and highly skilled can find to get around, find better places to earn a living.
What would you like to have seen in the budget for medium and small businesses?
How about an acknowledgement that we exist? That would have been that would have been a nice start. There is nothing in this budget about small or medium-sized businesses. Nothing about the horrible impact of the employer health tax on these businesses. Nothing about the threats to these businesses being caused by high property taxes or high, the EHT or delays in shipments from China or all these different things that, on the ground people are starting to really grapple with, but governments in their ivory tower have yet to come to a realization of. Nothing, no tax relief, even energy exposed, markets, they've been promised carbon tax relief by this government for more than a year. Nothing for them. It really was bereft of any kind of program or vision, for small business, small and medium-sized business, which again, as you and I have discussed so many times, this is the economic engine of this country. It's small and medium-sized businesses. These are by far the vast majority of employers. This is where entrepreneurship happens. This is where risk-taking happens. This is where people put their, financial lives on the line and, create jobs and employ people and give them good benefits and all that stuff. And we see no recognition of that kind of, that business at all. In fact, it's even worse than that. We see them, it just based upon the way they've added regulation, added red tape, added taxes, it's very clear that the NDP don't like employers. They don't trust employers. They don't. They think employers are all wrong and evil, need to be brought to heel. And they have a very activist anti-employer agenda.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, what kind of an impact has it been on your members to have these anarchist impromptu blockades all over the province?
Well, we were just having a meeting about this morning, actually, and it's bad and it's getting worse. So, two types of companies that we represent at ICBA. There is the responsible resource development companies, the ones who are actually going into the ground. They are very concerned because, of course, they're looking at these protests. They're looking at the very vanilla, weak statements from the federal government and weak statements and weak actions from the provincial government. And they're wondering, are the permits that we apply for worth anything? Will they actually be upheld if push comes to shove? Will we be able to actually build the projects we're permitted to build? Is it even worth doing business in British Columbia or Canada? So you've got that kind of aspect on one side. Then you have on the construction side. These delays have clogged the ports. And, so the ports are sitting there and there's dozens, if not more than 100 ships now offshore, in the port of Vancouver, waiting to unload their stuff, but there's nowhere for it to go because so many of these rail lines have been shut down by these protesters. That is problematic. On those ships are things like rebar, which, every construction project, every infrastructure project in British Columbia needs. On those ships are things like glass. We're talking to glaziers. They're short on glass. They cannot put in the necessary glass for these projects. They're waiting for it. It's here. It's just offshore on the ship, waiting for its turn at the port of Vancouver. But every day is money, and this is turning into weeks of delay as we wait to get through these protesters. So it's bad. It's going to get a lot worse unless the federal government actually acts and finally shows some darn leadership in this country.
How frustrating is it when you see governments say, well, let's negotiate with people who weren't elected?
Yeah, it's perplexing to me. The negotiations are over. That process has taken place. The negotiations happened months and years ago. 85% of the Wet'suwet'en voted in favor of this project. Hereditary chief or not, the people voted in favor of the project. The elected council voted in favor of the project. 2/3 of the hereditary chiefs voted in favor of the project. It's only this small group of obstructionists, aided and abetted by people who, frankly, don't give a damn about the Wet'suwet'en at all. They only care about stopping oil and gas in this country. They're the ones who are out there protesting. Frankly, I think the Wet'suwet'en hereditary elders don't want to meet with the Canadian government because they know they have no power over these protesters. They've got no influence whatsoever over these people blocking Via Rail and CN, over putting, pounding on the door of the Premier's house. They have no control over them. I think in their heart of hearts, they know they're just a Trojan horse being used by these anti-oil and gas activists. And, now we're stuck in this weird place where, you've got eco-activists, professional protesters, heavily influenced by American money coming into NGOs like Tides. They've just kind of glommed onto these few, Wet'suwet'en dissidents and claiming their cause as their own, but really they don't care about the Wet'suwet'en one bit. If they did, they'd care about getting those folks out of poverty as quickly as possible and understanding that this economic activity is a pathway to doing that.
Of course, where's the government going to get the money to compensate people who feel they've been wronged?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, like, today there's rumors floating around that, well, maybe, just maybe, they'll pull the RCMP off Wet'suwet'en land. Okay, well, that sounds great, except for one little problem. Government doesn't have the right to do that, right? There's an injunction, stating that, this company has gone through all the hoops, that they deserve the ability to build this safely, and that protesters should be cleared off, by that. So the RCMP, they're bound to uphold the law, so they have to stay. Number one. And number two, if they did pull out, if John Horgan and Justin Trudeau said, no, RCMP, get out of there, Coastal GasLink and LNG Canada could sue British Columbia Canada, not for millions, for billions in damages. And, you talk about a $65 billion budget. Imagine the cost to taxpayers if we had to, if Coastal GasLink and LNG Canada were able to go and convince the court that we owed them billions of dollars, which, frankly, they'd have a very strong case for. So, it's time for people to kind of smarten up here. Fun is fun. They've definitely had their chance to protest and all that good stuff. But, this is prosperity for a struggling First Nation on the line. These folks have glommed onto something that they have no real interest in other than it happens to align with their goal in stopping oil and gas.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Bateman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bateman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at batemanresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, your organization has done a survey of what people expect in wage and benefits in the near future. What did the survey tell you?
Well, the survey says, so this is actually something we've been doing for several years. It's the Wage and Benefits Survey, and we interview hundreds of our construction companies to find out where the market is for certain trades and where they're headed. The good news is our construction companies across the board are expecting nearly a 5% pay increase for their workers this year. With inflation at about 2%, that is a significant wage increase. That follows on the heels of about 5% last year, and it looks like another 5% coming in 2021. So, it's a significant chunk of money that you get to add onto your base salary. Basically, it takes the hourly average wage from about $28 to almost $33 over just a couple of years. So, exciting to see that going on. And the reason why is very simple. We have 250,000 people working in construction, but that's not enough to meet the demand of what needs to be built in many of the trades. We talked to all of our mason companies. Every single one of those companies needed more employees. 88% of our drywall finishers and our sprinkler fitting companies, they needed more workers. 83% of our ironworking companies needed more workers. 82% of our painting companies needed more painters. 78% of our window companies need more glazers. So, there's a huge demand for this labor. So it drives wages up because people are desperate to keep especially the quality staff that they have. You look at the range, you can start off in the HVAC refrigeration business now. You'll start at a wage of close to $20. And after a few years, you'll be earning up to $46 an hour. Plus, all your bonuses, health and retirement benefits that come along with it. It's a big room for growth there. And it's a sign of just how strong the construction market has become.
Now, the NDP government portrays your organization as somehow not paying fair wages.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is, we've seen what they pay, the unions, their building trades unions pay, and a lot of times it's less than what our folks get. Look at it like this. In the private sector, if you have the Wayne Gretzky, the Elias Pettersson, the Connor McDavid of welders, you are going to pay whatever it takes to keep that person in your company because they bring so much value to your team. You can't do that in union land. In union land, there's a top-end wage negotiated, and it doesn't matter if he's good or not. If he's been there for a certain number of years, he gets that top-end wage. That is not the case. If you have a kid come in and he is a welding savant and unbelievable at it, hardworking, they can make quite a bit more money with us. Similarly, the benefits have been improved over the past 25 years. These unions are still stuck in the 1970s, pretending that they have a corner on the market. When 85% of construction workers are now not affiliated with those old building trades unions, that tells you exactly where people want to be, where people want to work, and it's because they aren't bound to that seniority thing. I think the young worker coming into the workforce, why would you go work in a union company where, you could be better than every single older guy there, but you're not going to get the call because seniority says, union rules say, nope, the person who's been there longer gets it, and then the second one, and then the third one, and the fourth one, and you're number 577 on the list. That doesn't make any sense. When you can walk into an open shop company, and if you're a quality worker, you'll be rewarded, you'll be promoted, you'll be given more opportunity, more money, and you'll be given the work necessary. So, it is a major selling proposition for the open shop and for ICBA companies, and it's one that we're very proud of because it's a labor model that is absolutely working.
So with about 18% of the jobs out there unfilled, what's keeping these workers from coming to BC?
Well, there's a few different things. Workers aren't moving to BC because of the cost of living here. There's no doubt about it. Part of it is the trades have been looked down upon by folks like Andrew Weaver, the NDP government. They talk a lot about tech jobs and, white collar jobs and go get your master's and your doctorate and all that important stuff, which you definitely need in society. But, they kind of, look down upon the trades as, sort of what the jocks do or whatever, which is crazy. Like, some of our best, and best paid workers are young women who have gone through the system and have just are outperforming all of their colleagues. They get rewarded well. It's an exciting time to be in construction to see these companies growing. I will flag one other stat that came out of this. We did ask companies, if the government was on the right track, this is the NDP government, the right track or the wrong track in how they deal with companies like theirs. And, more than half, 53% said the NDP are on the wrong track. Only 8% said they're on the right track. And 39% said, please, I'm in denial that there is even an NDP government. Don't talk to me about them. But, when more than half of businesses are saying, government's on the wrong track in how they're dealing with my business, that is not a great sign.
Does your organization actively promote young women getting into the construction trades?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we saw a 55% increase in the young women sponsored directly by ICBA through our apprenticeship program. We're constantly searching for. I'm not going to be. I'll be fully blunt here. The construction industry needs more people. Period. Male, female, European descent, Indigenous. We need more of everyone. There is a job for virtually everyone who wants one in the construction sector. So, we have to hunt out these things. We have to find these people, and we're very excited to see some of our long-standing work in trying to promote the trades to young women, starting to pan out. And there's little things, right? There's formal programs. There's reaching out to schools, but there's little things too, right? Like last December, we sponsored a single mom-headed family with Christmas gifts at ICBA. Something that lots of workplaces do. But this mom, she was putting herself through welding school. And, it's exciting to be able to come alongside that family and help support them as they're, taking this big step forward. And we know that the day she finishes her welding, finishes welding school, she's going to have a job for life. She's going to be, she's an excellent worker, very diligent, and we're excited to see where her future takes her. So, there's lots of these kind of different ways that we reach out into the community as one-on-one like that, all the way up to speaking to broad groups of young women, trying to promote our programs.
Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association of BC. His website, icba.ca. If you have any questions for Jordan or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.